All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking an ancient story that feels incredibly modern. We're talking about Hagar from the book of Genesis, and her story, well, it speaks volumes to anyone who's ever felt overlooked, completely overwhelmed, and just out of options.
This one line, this is the heart of everything we're talking about today. It's a stunning declaration that comes out of a moment of pure desperation, and it points to a truth that has been giving people hope for thousands of years. We're going to get into exactly how we got here and why it's such a game changer.
Because at the end of the day, that's what this is. It's the story of a woman who becomes a single parent not because she chose to, but because she was trapped by the choices of others. She feels totally invisible, like a pawn in someone else's game, a feeling that is, let's be honest, all too relatable for so many of us even now.
Okay, so let's really set the stage. To get Hagar, you first have to get her situation. She wasn't the main character in her own life, not at all. She was basically a background player in someone else's drama, an Egyptian servant stuck in the middle of a messy plan hatched by her masters, Abram and Sarai.
And this is where the power imbalance is it's glaringly obvious. Sarai wants a child. She's impatient, waiting on a promise from God, so she cooks up her own plan. And Hagar? Hagar is just the instrument to make it happen. She isn't a person in this plan, she's an object, a womb, a means to an end. She has zero say in any of it.
I mean, just look at this. It really hammers home how invisible she was. She doesn't make a single decision. She has no lines, and Abram and Sarai don't even bother to use her name. But the second she conceives, the power dynamic gets complicated. Hagar gives Sarai a look, maybe the only bit of power she can grab, and Sarai's reaction is so brutal that Hagar's only choice is to run for her life.
So what does she do? She runs. Pregnant and completely alone, she heads out into the wilderness. And you have to understand, the wilderness back then wasn't just some woods. It was the end of the line. It's a symbol for total isolation, for hitting rock bottom, for having absolutely nowhere else to go.
But then, we get this incredible line. The text says the angel of the Lord found her. Now think about that word, found. It implies someone was looking, seeking. While her masters were probably just fine with her being gone, this tells us that God valued her, that he was actively looking for her. He saw her when no one else did.
And then this question comes. For what might be the first time in a long time, someone speaks to her by name. This is a huge moment of recognition. God doesn't see a runaway servant or a problem to be solved. He sees Hagar. He asks about her life, her past, her future. He treats her like a human being.
And her response to being seen, to being truly known? It's amazing. She does something no one else does. She gives God a name. El Roi, the God who sees. It is this powerful, personal cry from someone who has just realized, wow, I'm not invisible after all. She goes back, not because things are perfect, but because she now has a promise that God sees her and her son.
But this wasn't some happily ever after moment, not even close. Her story is really a two-act play. This was just Act 1. More than 14 years go by. Hagar is raising her son, Ishmael, in this incredibly tense household. And then, when Sarah, Sarai's new name, finally has her own son, Isaac, all that old jealousy and conflict just explodes. And it leads to a second banishment. And this one is for good.
And this second time in the wilderness, it's a whole different level of terrifying. The first time she was running to save herself. This time she's been thrown out, and she is responsible for the life of her teenage son. The stakes are just infinitely higher.
I just think about how cruel this is. Abraham is an incredibly wealthy man, a patriarch. And he sends Hagar and his own firstborn son out into the barren desert. With what? A loaf of bread and a single bag of water. That's it. It's practically a death sentence. And it's a terrifying picture of what it feels like to have your entire support system pulled out from under you.
And then it happens. The moment every parent in that kind of situation fears most. Then the water in the skin was gone. It's so blunt, so final. The resources are gone. The hope is gone. There's nothing left.
And this is rock bottom, the absolute pit of despair. Hagar puts her son under a bush to die and walks away because she literally cannot bear to watch it happen. Can you even imagine that feeling? The feeling that you have failed so completely as a parent that all you can do is wait for the end?
But it is right there, in that moment of total, crushing defeat, that is when everything changes. Right when all human hope is completely snuffed out, the story pivots from Hagar's grief to God's response.
And listen to this stunning detail. The Bible says that God heard the voice of the boy, not Hagar's weeping. She had given up. He heard Ishmael. For any parent out there who worries constantly about their kids, that is such a profound thought, that even when your own hope is gone, your child's cry is still heard. And the miracle that comes next is so telling. God doesn't just magically make water appear out of a rock. No, the text says he opened her eyes and she saw a well that was there the whole time. The provision she needed was already there. She was just so blinded by despair and grief that she couldn't see it. What a powerful metaphor for hope.
So when you pull it all together, what does Hagar's entire journey really show us? Well, it boils down to these 4 amazing truths. 1. God sees you, especially when you feel invisible. 2. God hears. He hears you, and maybe even more powerfully, he hears your kids. 3. God provides, often right at the moment you think it's all over. And 4. God has a plan for you, a future that is so much bigger than the difficult circumstances you might be in right now.
And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? Hagar named her first rescue spot Bir Lahairoi, the well of the living one who sees me. It makes you wonder, in our own lives, when we're lost in our own wilderness, where is our well? What source of hope, what provision might be sitting right there in front of us if only our eyes were open to see it?